Good evening, Cecil TV. I'm Grant Handley, your political correspondent. Joining me today is candidate for Board of Education District 2, Tierney Davis. Tierney, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Grant. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Tierney, for those who may not be familiar with you, just kind of run us through your background.
Well, my name is Tierney Davis, as you stated, and I'm a 25-year Elkton resident. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I've been working for the Department of Homeland Security for the last 24 years.
That's awesome.
I am a pro-public education candidate. I'm unapologetic about that. I am dedicated to our students, I'm dedicated to our teachers, and dedicated to my community. And I say that to say that I am out at the schools volunteering and mentoring our students, and I'm also out in the community advocating for public education and why the vast majority of our students will benefit from public education. So those are the things that I try to do to make sure that I am visible and that the students know who I am and that I'm advocating for them 24/7.
First of all, thank you for your service, sir. We appreciate that, your commitment to this country. If you're elected to another term on the school board, what will be your priorities?
Well, if I am re-elected, my priorities would be student safety, 1, and 2 would probably be classroom size. The student-teacher ratio is really a problem that we need to kind of correct in some of the areas. But also, I think it's important that that the budget is always kind of something that we kind of rely on, because I know that was a big issue earlier in this primary, and that's something we need to make sure that we focus on. But I think having more meetings with the county government early in the process will help that process be a lot less contentious.
So digging into, I want to dig into student safety and the classroom ratio, and we'll touch on the budget stuff a little later. Because I kind of sort of like this. Student safety and the classroom ratios are these internal issues, right? All board, CCPS staff.
Absolutely.
And then funding, now you're playing with other parties and things like that.
Absolutely.
Could you just kind of expand upon the student safety and the classroom issue and maybe solutions or kind of what you have a board and administration been digging at with it?
Okay. Well, as it relates to student safety, as you know, across the country and across the state of Maryland, student safety has been a real issue, and it's something that we need to kind of get a handle on. I have personally some issues about it, and I'll get to that in just a minute.
Sure.
But first, what we are doing right now here in Cecil County is we have something called a weapons detection systems that we're using at our sporting events and at the football games right now at Elkton High School. That was the pilot, and I attended that pilot to make sure how it was going and how the interaction was with the fans and how they embraced the ideas, and the vast majority of them were okay with it because they understand we have to make sure that our patrons that come to the games are safe. But I'll piggyback on that and say I believe that all of our schools should have a safety zone from the front door of that school until the back doors of that school. Students can't learn if they feel unsafe.
Right.
And across our country and across this state, that's something that's going on and that we need to figure it out. It won't be an easy solution because a lot of folks are against having enhanced safety at our schools for a number of reasons. I know we have school resource officers, and that's a big deterrent as well, but however, there's still incidents that occur no matter if they're there or not. And you had another question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the classroom ratio size.
Yes, and that deals a lot with funding, of course.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have the fundings available, then you have a teacher shortages.
Right.
And having 25 to 30 students in some classes is just unacceptable because you can't, I think an ideal size would be somewhere around, 18 to 20, 21, something like that. And once again, that all comes down to budget. And I know the maintenance of effort, which is what we kind of struggled with. Last year, we were last in the state. This year, we moved up next to last. So that's still not enough. I mean, and that's not to get political, but just to let you know that, there's a nexus between those two.
Right. That's interesting. And I know with student safety, is part of that initiative was like the safe and secure entrances. You have to like walk through the offices to get into the schools and things
Absolutely.
like that.
And we spent a lot of money on that over the past few years to make sure that we have safe entrances at every school, at all of the 29 schools in Cecil County. So that is a big deterrent. However, it's still not everything that we need to do, in my opinion. I mean, I'm a Homeland Security professional, so I'm always about you see something, say something. Yeah. Mental health. Our students are struggling with mental health. And a lot of times the active shooters and things that are going on in our schools are by students. It's not like some person comes into the building.
Right.
So that part of it we have locked down, but what do we do about students who are already in the building?
Internal.
And as a Homeland Security professional, we have something called a sterile area at our airports and everything where there's no prohibited items that are allowed behind a certain area. I think our schools are going to have to go to that at some point. It may not be in 2024, but I think at some point we may have to resort to that if we want to make sure that our students are safe and that their parents know they can send their kid to school in the morning and not have to worry about them being injured while learning.
How is that enforced? Like is it walking through those screen detectors?
Well,
you're
yes, at
coming
the
in,
airports, I mean, you have walk-through metal detectors, you
Right.
have puffer machines, which actually, puffs air on you to see if you have any explosive particles on you. There are a lot, and we have, of course, the high-density electronic machines that look for mass and density of weapons and so forth. Our airports are secure, and I believe our schools are just as important, so they should be secure as well. But once again, it's not an easy fix because a lot of parents may not be good with that idea.
Right.
But once you explain to them and have meetings and have maybe town halls to let them know why you want to do it and how we are going to be responsible about it, I think we might get more buy-in.
Sure.
Now that's not a CCPS thing at this point. That's just what Tierney
Right.
Davis would do
Right.
if I am reelected, along with my four other board members. We would work together and try to see what we can do about that situation.
Sure. If there are any, what are your areas of concern regarding student achievement in CCPS? And are there any changes that you would recommend from that standpoint?
There are some things, of course, across the state, and particularly in CCPS as it relates to math scores. Math scores across, we did well in comparison to the vast majority of the state. We have 24 counties in the state. But math scores are something that we definitely need to work on, and I believe we're working right now with the superintendent and other administrators and teachers to make sure that we can kind of give our students, because a lot of learning was lost during COVID. COVID really devastated us in a lot of areas.
Sure.
And I think now we're starting to get back on track to try to make sure that we're allowing our students to kind of get that more hands-on approach from our teachers to help them build up those scores again. But right now I think we're doing pretty good, but we have a lot more to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we were talking about Fund CCPS and the powerful movement that was all throughout the primary. Mm-hmm. How does the school board balance the need to provide for a quality education with the understanding of the local taxpayer burden and the greater, CCPS or the greater county government needs? How do you approach that balance as a Board of Ed member?
And that's a very good question, because right now funding is a big issue, and I know some people don't quite understand how the maintenance of effort and the per pupil costs and county wealth and how all those things sync up. But the state the state provides a certain percentage, around 46, 47%, and then the local share is around 40 something as well, and then the federal government input is about 5%. So we do have to have result-based funding at some point, because people do want to make sure that the children who we give in approximately $6,200 per student, that money is being spent properly, and that we are making sure that they are learning. And basically, part of the blueprint for Maryland's future talks about getting all of our students college and career ready by the end of their 10th grade.
Right.
And I think that's a big piece of it as well, is that making sure that they're either going on to have a job in the public sector or they're going on to college, making sure they're ready. So the bottom line is that we need to make sure that we're communicating with the public what our results are and where we're falling short and what we're going to do to make sure that we're building them back up.
We spoke with your opponent, Tierney, and your opponent had really stressed that parental involvement is really lacking in CCPS. Do you think parents need a greater role in their children's schooling?
Well, statistics and the data shows that parental involvement for students really leads to greater results for students. So I do think parental involvement is highly important. And I think we do have a pretty good, we have our committees that we have parental involvement in, and we also make sure that most of the things that happen with our students is always through their parents' point of view, whether it be for them reading certain books or whether it be for them having access to certain data. Parental involvement is always something that should be at the forefront. And if I am reelected, I will continue to make sure that we have meetings, we go out in our communities and we get input from them to make sure that what we're providing to their students is what they agree on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nationally speaking, the role of schools in teaching topics such as sex education and bullying and wellness and even things as simple as like dating and things like that is always at the forefront of controversy. What do you think the proper role is of public schools teaching those topics?
Teaching the topics of like sex education. We have certain curriculum that's approved through the right process, and I believe that when it comes to could you re-ask the second part? Because I think I heard you right, but I want to make sure I clearly understood what you said.
What is the role of schools in teaching topics such as sex education?
As it relates to sex education, most of those type of items, there is a role for the school, but a lot of those serious topic areas are taught at home. And I don't believe necessarily that we're getting too deep into it as far as the physiology of sex and so forth.
Sure.
that's part of it. Of course, they're going to be a part of the curriculum, you know. But I don't believe that we should take it to the level that some folks believe that we are. And I don't believe a lot of things are happening out here in the public, and it's not really what's really going on, but it's a Trojan horse or some straw man that people are fighting towards.
Sure.
And I do believe we're being very responsible when it comes to teaching those subject matters in our schools, particularly in CCPS.
Now, want to expand on that too. You had mentioned earlier there's some mental health issues and some mental health wellness. Can you just kind of expand on your concerns with that there?
Well, I believe because of coming out of COVID and those almost 3 years that we dealt with that, and that the normal ideas, the normal things that children go through, from K up to 12. I mean, mental health is a serious issue, particularly nowadays when students have a lot more issues going on than maybe I had when I was growing up, whether it be with drugs, alcohol, or whether it be with sexual orientation, things of that nature.
Sure.
And I'm about supporting 100% of our students 100% of the time, no matter where they fall in the socioeconomic, race, sexual orientation, and all that. So we need to meet the students where they are and make sure that when it comes to mental health, that we have more counselors. So we're going back again to the funding. We need more counselors in our schools to help our children who are struggling with mental health, and recognizing those and letting people know that when you see a student struggling, you need to offer them help.
Right.
And that's really where we need more help. We need more funding. We need more counselors, and we need to make sure that that's at our forefront.
What do you see as the primary work of the Board of Education?
Well, the primary role of the Board of Education is to make sure that we're looking at policy, and that we're looking at budget, and that we're looking at the superintendent and making he or she accountable. In our instance, Dr. Lawson, making sure that, because he is our only employee.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, but we are overseeing him. And, I think he's done a great job, but he has to continue to be, he's rated on a regular basis, and throughout the year, we rate him, and he gives us 360-degree feedback. We give him feedback, he gives us feedback. And the role of the Board of Education is not some ceremonial role where we show up at board meetings every month.
Right.
We need to be out in the community.
Right.
We need to be at our schools, and we need to make sure that we're getting input from the public, because they can't trust what we're doing if they don't see us and know what we stand for.
Right.
Because a lot of things that happen on the Board of Education happens behind the scenes, believe it or not. We have closed sessions and we have open session. So some of the things that we talk about that a lot of things that we do may happen in the background, but we are making sure that we're out in the public. When we have our meetings, we get public input.
Right.
And we make sure that we are transparent as we can be.
As we wrap up today, what is your final comment to voters as we are a month out from the election?
Well, a couple of things real quick. I think that it's important that everyone gets out and vote during the early voting season, starting October 24th to October 31st. And then there's also the November 5th. The general election happens on that day. But I also want to make sure that people understand that I am seeking re-election because, once again, I'm dedicated to our students. I'm dedicated to our teachers. I'm dedicated to my community. And I promise to serve with pride, integrity, and most of all, ethics, if I am reelected, because to me, ethics is the most important part for any public official.
Right.
To make sure you're doing the right thing, even when other folks may not be watching. So once again, I ask for your vote on November 5th, and I'm very proud to have represented District 2 in Elkton for the last 4 years.
Well, there you have it, folks. Tierney Davis, candidate for District 2. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Much appreciate it.
And to God be the glory.
Yep, absolutely. Everybody, go out there and vote. Doesn't matter who, just go out there and exercise your right. Thank you for watching, and have a great night.